Right now, without changing anything, notice that you are breathing. Don't fix it. Don't deepen it. Just catch it happening. The way you'd catch a clock ticking in a room you'd been sitting in for an hour without hearing it. And now something awkward happens, which is the real reason for this video. The moment you noticed, you took over. You can feel it. The breath went slightly deliberate, slightly managed, and it stopped being smooth. You are suddenly in charge of something you have no idea how to run. How deep is it supposed to be? How long is the pause? You don't know. Nobody knows. So let go of it and watch. Within a few seconds, it slips out of your hands and resumes on its own, steady, unhurried, the exact rhythm it had before you interrupted, the rhythm it has been keeping since the night you were born. You've had this experience before, probably lying in the dark, and you probably didn't stay with it for more than a moment, because if you do, something underneath it starts to feel strange. Put it plainly, something has been breathing you your entire life, and it isn't you. Not once did you decide, not through surgery, not through the worst night you've ever had, not through the stretch of years when getting out of bed was the entire day's work, roughly 20,000 times a day, without your permission, without your attention, without one instruction from you. And take the strongest case, the one nobody thinks about. Last night, in deep sleep, there was no you at all. No thoughts, no intention, no one home to decide anything for hours. And it never missed. Whatever kept that going was not your mind, because your mind was gone, and it did not need you present to continue. You have been kept alive continuously by something you have never once identified. Most people, on the rare occasion that thought lands, file it under biology and move on. Brainstem. Autonomic function, case closed. But naming the machinery is not the same as answering the question, and the question is older than biology and considerably stranger than it. If you are not the one doing it, who is? That question has an answer. It was written down long before anyone had a word for a nervous system, by people who had noticed exactly what you just noticed, and who claim to know the name of what is doing it. Before that name reaches you, something has to be cleared out of the way. Everyone who talks about breath is selling you a technique. Count 4 in, hold for 16, exhale for 8. Close one nostril. Do it at dawn, facing east, for 40 consecutive days. Absorb the light. Some of that material is genuinely ancient, just not from where they tell you it is. Counted retention, alternate nostrils, the tongue against the palate. That's pranayama. That's Taoist practice, thousands of years old and belonging to traditions with their own names, quietly relabeled and handed to you with Jesus attached to it. And every one of them assumes the same thing. They treat the breath as a door you have to learn to open, that you are standing outside something and the correct sequence lets you in, that the light is elsewhere and the counting is how you go and fetch it. So if you tried one of those and felt nothing, if you did the 40 days or got to day 9 and stopped, or held your breath for 16 counts and got dizzy and quietly concluded that other people must be built for this and you aren't, the failure was never yours. And that dizziness was not progress, whatever the video told you. It was your body being deprived of something. And if some part of you was quietly suspicious of the whole promise, the idea that a counting pattern could import God into your chest, that suspicion was correct, chosen ones. The oldest texts are on your side, because the Gnostic manuscripts contain no breathing practice at all. Not one count, not one hold, not one sequence, not one posture, not one instruction to inhale for a specific length of time. Other traditions in that same ancient world did write those down. The Greek magical papyri are full of them. These people did not. That absence looks like a gap. It isn't. It's the most coherent thing in the entire tradition, because you cannot be taught to acquire something that has been happening to you without interruption since before you had a name for yourself. What those texts give you instead is the story of where it came from. and it opens on a scene almost nobody has ever read. They had finished the body, and it would not stand. The scene is in a text called the Apocryphon of John, buried in the sand at Nag Hammadi and unread for centuries. The rulers of this world had built a human form, working from an image of something above them they had glimpsed once and never understood. The craftsmanship was finished. Every part was in place, and it lay on the ground. Days of work, and the thing they had assembled just lay there. They checked it over, every joint articulated, every organ where it belonged. And it did nothing. No movement, no sound, no sign of anything inside it at all. Whatever makes a body into a living person was not something they possessed, and they could not tell you what was missing, because they had never held it in the first place. So a plan was made, and it did not come from them. Sophia had been trying to get her light back. That is the part of this nobody tells you. The power she lost had ended up inside the thing she accidentally produced, and she went to the invisible spirit and asked for it to be recovered. What follows is not a creation story at all. It is a retrieval operation, and the body on the ground was the container they intended to move the light into. 5 figures of light came down among the chief ruler's own attendants, and from inside his court they advised him. "Blow into his face something of your spirit," they said, "and his body will rise." And he did it. He leaned over the thing he had built, and he breathed into its face. Now the text does something extraordinary. It stops the action to tell you what he was thinking, and the line is one of the coldest in the whole collection. He did not know this, for he exists in ignorance. He had no idea what he was doing, because what he blew into that body was not his own. He had none of his own. What left his mouth was the power of his mother, Sophia's light, the piece of the fullness he had inherited and carried around his entire existence without ever understanding what it was. He was a vessel with something borrowed inside him, and the 5 lights knew it, and they tricked him into pouring it out. It was never his to give, and it was never yours to make. The moment he exhaled, the power left him. It went out of the ruler and into the body on the ground, and the body moved. It gained strength, and the word the text uses next is the one that changes everything. It was luminous. What happens next is the reason for everything that followed. The other rulers looked at what was standing in front of them and were immediately jealous. Not offended. Jealous. Because the thinking of that body was already greater than theirs, greater than the chief ruler who made it, and they could see the light coming off it. So they took him and threw him into the lowest region of all matter. That is the origin of the situation you are in. Not disobedience, not a fruit. A theft that went the wrong way, and a jealousy that never ended. And now, the part that concerns you directly, chosen ones. Whatever moves in you was never your effort. It was never your merit, never your discipline, never something you earned by being good or lost by being bad. And it was never his either. He was a courier who didn't read the package. What is breathing you is the same light that made the builders of this world jealous on sight. That is why the jealousy never stopped. That is why so much of this life is arranged to keep you from noticing what is in you. But that was one breath, once, into one body a long time ago. So why is it still happening, 20,000 times a day, in you tonight, without your permission? Because it was never a single event. What happened over that body was not a gift handed down once and then finished. It was a transfer, light moving out of something that could not hold it and into something that could. And a transfer that is still running is not history, it's a condition. Which brings us to a detail in the Greek that almost nobody has ever been shown. The verb used when Jesus breathes on his disciples is emphysao. He stands in front of them after the resurrection, breathes on them, and says, "Receive the pneuma," That verb appears exactly once in the entire New Testament. Once, nowhere else, in any book, by any writer. And the Greek translators of the Hebrew scriptures had used that same rare verb in 2 places, and only 2. The first is the moment God breathes into the face of the man made from dust, and he becomes a living soul. The second is a valley of dry bones, where a prophet is told to call the breath, and the dead stand up. So when the writer of John reached for a word to describe what Jesus did in that room, he chose the one word in the language that meant animating what could not stand on its own. Same verb, same act, same substance being moved. And what he did not do is the whole point. He gave no count, no ratio, no held breath, no 40 days, no dawn, no direction to face, no posture, no hand position. He did not teach them to acquire anything. He breathed on them, the way you breathe on cold hands, and told them what had just entered. The word for that substance, pneuma, is also the ordinary word for breath and for wind. In Hebrew, it's ruach. In Aramaic, the language he actually spoke, ruha. One word, breath and spirit have never been 2 things. So the practice is not a technique, and I want to be very clear about this before you try it. You will not count anything. You will not hold your breath. You will not breathe faster or deeper than you already are, and if you ever feel lightheaded doing any spiritual practice, that is not power arriving. Stop. And you have already done the first half of it, chosen ones, in the first minute of this video. When you noticed your breathing and took it over and it went clumsy, and then you let go and it resumed without you. That was the whole thing. You just didn't know what you were watching. Everything since has been telling you what that was. So tonight, before you sleep, go back to it and stay 1 step longer. Let the breath go out, and then wait. Not holding, just not helping. There is a small gap at the bottom of the exhale, a second or 2, where you are doing absolutely nothing. No effort, no intention, nobody home. And then it comes back on its own. That is the whole practice. Stay in that gap and watch it arrive without you. You are not generating anything there. You are witnessing the same transfer that stood a body up off the ground, still running, tonight, in your chest. And for a moment, you are on the receiving end of it consciously instead of asleep. The pause is mine to point at. The thing that fills it is not mine, and it was never yours either. Do that for 1 minute and something obvious becomes strange again, which raises the question this whole thing has been building toward. If it is this simple, why does everyone sell it as a method? It was never his to give, and it was never yours to make. So why has every tradition that touched this turned it into homework? Follow the money for 1 minute, because the answer is not mysterious. A breath that is already happening has no market. There is nothing to sell a person who has been receiving the thing continuously since birth. No teacher is required. No level to reach, no 40-day program, no beginner course, no certification, no retreat, no one qualified to tell you whether you did it correctly, because there is no incorrectly. It arrives whether you are devout or faithless, awake or unconscious, grateful or bitter. Method fixes all of that at once. Turn it into a sequence, and suddenly there is an instructor and a beginner. There are stages. There is a right way, which means there is a wrong way, which means there is failure. And failure is the most profitable feeling in spiritual life, because the person who failed comes back and pays again. That is the conversion. Evidence became exercise. The proof that something has been holding you your whole life was repackaged as a skill you have not acquired yet. And notice the one question that vanished in the transaction. Every modern breathing system talks about your breath. Your practice, your capacity, your progress, your ability to hold longer than last month. Whose breath it is never comes up, not once. The single most important thing about it, that it is not yours, that it never was, that it was moved into you from somewhere else, is the exact detail no method has any use for. That omission is not a rounding error, chosen ones. It is the entire content, quietly removed, and it serves something older than any wellness industry. Remember what the rulers did the moment that body stood up and started glowing. They were jealous, and they threw it into the lowest place they could find. That jealousy never went anywhere. A world administered by it does not need to take the breath away from you. It cannot. Nobody can. It only needs you convinced that you don't have it yet, and that somebody else is selling the way in. So if the most obvious piece of evidence in your body, running 20,000 times a day, impossible to hide, impossible to fake, could be turned into something you have to buy back, then ask what else in you was turned the same way. That is what the Archon Codex lays out. What was taken, what was renamed, and what each of those pieces was originally for. It's available now, link in the description below, which leaves one thing, and it is the smallest thing in this entire video. While you have been listening to this, it has happened more than 200 times. You didn't authorize a single one of them. You weren't paying attention to most of them. And not one required you to believe anything, deserve anything, understand anything, or do it correctly. They arrived while you were distracted, while you were doubting, while part of you was deciding whether any of this is true. That is the smallest thing in this video, and it's the only thing in it you cannot argue with. Everything else you can take or leave. The scene on the ground, the ruler who gave away what he didn't know he was holding, the rare verb, the room where he breathed on them. You can weigh all of that at your own pace. But the transfer is not a claim. It is running in your chest at this exact second, and it will keep running tonight while you sleep and there is nobody home. So you don't need to begin a practice. That's the part almost nobody hears correctly. There is nothing to start, no first day, no beginner stage. The only thing available to you is to stop missing what has never once stopped for you. The body on the ground stood up because something was breathed into it, something the builders could not make and could not keep, and could only resent once they saw it standing there, glowing. You are that body, still standing, still being breathed. And when it comes in tonight, without your permission, in the dark, when you are doing absolutely nothing to earn it, that is not biology being ordinary, chosen ones. That is the oldest thing in you being handed back again, the way it has been handed back your entire life. Let it out. Wait in the gap. Watch it come. And when it does, say so. Comment, "It is breathing me."